Hi, I'm Ellen. I am the communications person here at One Step. All going to plan. This should be the first episode of Let's Talk. Let's Talk is our new campaign, which is all about really just encouraging people to have conversations. The pandemic has brought a whole host of challenges with it. What we're seeing in our organisation, which is relatively small, we've seen a huge spike in rates of self-harm, suicide attempts, and just a general dip in the mental health and well-being of our young people. The gaps in the system have just been exposed, and services aren't working for the people that they were intended to support through no fault of their own. I mean, mental health services have been overstretched and underfunded since they existed. What's happening with us is just a reflection of what's happening country and worldwide. It needs so much work done to it that everybody's avoiding it, and that is why I am here to talk to you today. On behalf of One Step Borders, I've reached out to a variety of organisations, community figures, some with more success than others. I hope that by having conversations with different people, that it just demonstrates that we can still have constructive and positive conversations around the subject. And from those conversations, we can highlight where the problems are, generate some conversation around how we might go about, making those changes, and in turn put pressure on the people who are in the position to actually affect some of these changes. I realise the enormity of that challenge, but just because something's hard doesn't mean you shouldn't try. So that's what I'm going to do. So for the first episode, I'm going to be talking to the wonderful Caroline Cochrane. She is the Independent Councillor for Selkirkshire. I'm going to be talking about why mental health is important to her, and really just about how communities can work together and how together we can have a better chance at actually making these changes happen. So I'm going to go and let her into the Zoom meeting.
Hello.
I'm just trying to make sure that I'm actually recording. I know. So how are you?
All right, yes, bearing up.
Welcome to my Let's Talk Zoom room. I've asked you on because of the position you've got in the community. And in the introduction, I gave a little bit of context just with regards to what our situation is as an organisation. I basically said that what we're dealing with is reflecting what the whole country is experiencing. And I don't think it's just mental health services, I think it's just services countrywide. But what we've noticed just with our different cases, support systems, including us, the crisis teams in the borders, and different statutory and third sector organisations were so overloaded. That's with a budget that just doesn't match. Things just don't align properly, and I think people don't have faith in the systems that are there. I think they're almost lucky if they find something that works for them, and I don't think that luck should really have anything to do with it. I think being able to access support you need when you need it should be a given. So yeah, my first question, as an independent councillor, what do you think the problems are for young people in terms of getting the support? Do you think there is support? Do you think people know it's there?
I think they know that support is there, but it's right, as you say, it's signposting. It's the right service for the right person. I think that's a bit muddled at times. I think now we're in the situation with the pandemic, that I think there's a whole tsunami of mental health problems coming in the back of this. Yeah. It's in a young person's life, you know, we've almost been in this situation for a year, and it's the complete unknown and knowing what direction you're heading in. That's a long time. But for a young person particularly, it's really, really difficult. I mean, you think back to high school kids, I mean, they've missed proms, they've missed, you know, school trips, they've missed, you know, time in class with their friends. It's a difficult, you know, year. And I find it difficult as a person, as an adult. So therefore, you know, see my own kids as well, I can see how difficult and what they're all missing out on. So they're in that sort of age bracket, you know, and Archie, particularly my son, he's missed out on his rugby, his youth club rugby. He's missed out time with his friends. He's missed driving lessons, you know, all this sort of thing. Ella, particularly as well, time at school, time with our friends, and you know, our hockey and everything as well. And I mean, it's when these things will actually start up again properly. But I think going back to your question on the actual signposting and the services, I think there is a bit of a muddled bit in the middle here that needs to be, you know, if you are feeling like this, then this is the service, or if it's more of this type of feeling that you've got, it's that service. So if you're having a bit of I mean, we all have down days and things. So if you begin to think, well, what's the difference between depression and just having a you know, a day where you're just feeling a bit low? So
almost given, like, categorizing the different types of support that's available at each stage, highlighting what you could expect if you went to this area. So obviously the type of support you're going to get from, say, one of our project workers is going to be different to that of a GP.
And I think also it's getting in early enough and stopping the problem from getting any worse. And I think also the stigma as well, you know, of reaching out, you know, it's okay, you know, it's life. It's just dealing with a little chapter, a little bump in the road or whatever.
As you say, as an adult, it's confusing. I say I'm an adult. I've had an issue with referring to myself as an adult, so I don't really. But at a local kind of level, do you think that they're aware of what the actual problems are?
I think they realise there's problems. How far the problems actually go, you know, as you said, you know, the amount of calls that you're actually getting regarding, you know, like suicide, etc., the self-harming cases. It's whether actually people realise that how this is actually happening on their doorstep. It's one of these things that you think, oh well, they're teenagers, they'll grow out of it type thing. And it's the long-term effects that can have on an individual. So if it's something that starts really young and then, you know, develops all the way through their life, unless they can cope with it then, how are they going to cope with it, you know, 20 years down the line?
It's difficult to talk about. Like, I don't think there's any point dressing it up, but I think because it's so big, people are so scared to say the wrong thing that they just don't say anything. Surely it's better to make a mistake and somebody call you out on it and you be like, oh, well, that was wrong, learn, change your behaviour, and then you'll know going forward.
There's sort of distance from it, because I know, like, from you know, kids that they're at school, they'll know people in their class, they'll know what a big issue and everything it is, but then it's having that conversation with the adults and saying, this is a real problem. You know, there's X amount of people in classes that are self-harming or have other sort of coping mechanisms. I think from an adult point of view, we are probably not in the thick of it, knowing what's actually going on, and you need young people to say, you know, this is what's happening.
And it's difficult as well, because I think with that you kind of put the onus on the young people. That person still needs to feel able to come out and actually ask for the help in whatever way that is. People are talking about it, but it's like mental health in general and investing in your kind of mental well-being and stuff like that. And I think everything that comes under mental health is now just being pushed under we're talking about it now, so that's fine. Okay. Whereas like the specific things that are maybe at the other end of the spectrum, like suicide and self-harm and like condition-specific things can be trivialized a little bit.
It's, you know, asking the leading questions, and trying, you know, to get your kids to open up to you.
So do you think it's something that needs to happen in schools?
I do. I think that I know from my experience when I was at school, it was probably easier to talk to somebody else than it was to talk to your mum and dad.
Yeah, of course.
We had the guidance teachers when I was at school, and they used to get you in and have a bit of a chat and see how's it going. And it wasn't just about your schoolwork, it was about your mental health, it was about your well-being, etc. as well. And particularly young girls at that age, it's about diets and trying to fit in and everything as well. So I mean, I had a bit of an issue there, so my guidance teacher helped me out really well.
I had a great guidance teacher. Like, I literally don't know if I would have stayed at school if she hadn't have been there. Yeah. Because I struggled so much to talk about stuff, and she just seen that. And I don't know if it's maybe like specifically trained people that maybe need to go into schools.
I'd love to see like a wellness officer within each of the secondary schools. Yeah. And again, one particularly working with the primary schools as well. Because I think it's just as important to these are got to be your young adults coming through. Yeah. And I think going in the back of this pandemic, life's changed. Yeah. And what is the new norm? So I think that these issues, the isolation, the anxiety, it's a big thing. I mean, some of these kids haven't been at school for a year. I think it's difficult for teachers because I mean they're under so much pressure as well. To get the in particular now with home learning and things as well. Trying to get that done, but then trying to get kids back to school, get them settled in school to learn because they've spent that much time at home. I'm delighted to see that Selkirk Rugby Club have taken on a new mental health officer there, and I think that's a brilliant example. For a community to have that there, and the thing for the club to have that and realise, that there is, guys out there that particularly find it difficult to talk to because it's not manly or whatever to show your emotion or whatever. And I think to have that person there, I think it's part of their team. I think it's a really good positive step
in the right direction. The rugby club, I mean, it's a manly sport, and the majority of the people at the rugby club are men, and I just feel that as a demographic, that's probably really hard to engage with. So I think what I'm hoping has happened is it's almost started like a wave.
In the same way it needs to happen in schools, because pressures, exams, pressure. Well, there isn't actual exams at the moment, but you've still got to get your schoolwork to get your grades. But there will be the exams will come back at some point. So there's all that pressure, and I think as well, I was pretty lucky when I was there. I did have the right guidance teacher that I was able to talk to. Yeah. And as you say, it's getting that right person for you to speak to. But I think anybody that's that's feeling blue, feeling a bit, this isn't right, I'm just not feeling the best, just to try and find somebody that they can talk to.
Or something that helps. Like you don't have to sit down with all your pals and talk about everything that's ever made you sad in your life. Like, if that's not constructive for you, then don't do it. It's about finding something that works for you.
They've got Rollins in Selkirk, and I mean that's not just a youth club. They provide support and help with wellbeing and everything to the young people of Selkirk. And I mean they need to be recognised for that as well. It's not just a case of going along and playing pool or hanging out with your friends. There is a lot of good work going on there. Myself, I found it difficult in lockdown. I'm quite a sociable person. I like to be out. I like to be speaking to people. I mean, I'm being very fortunate because I've still been going into my business 3 days a week, so I'm actually still been seeing people. But I've had a couple of wobbles, as I'm sure everybody has. But I find now my coping strategy is stop planning so far in advance.
Yes.
Concentrate on a day or a week, and that's it. So that's what I do now, short times, and it's like when I get up, I think, right, what have I got to do today? What do I want to achieve today? These wee sort of nuggets that you need to just tick off your to-do list. Yeah. And that's what helps to get through.
Yeah. What you're saying about getting people in at school level is definitely something that needs to be considered. For your personal agenda, I don't know, do you have a manifesto?
You have the things that are important to me, and obviously at the moment they're preparing the budget for this coming year for the council. This year going forward, one of my key priorities is, I would love to see, and I'll make that quite clear, is to see a wellness officer in each of the secondary schools. I think it's just as important as any other teacher that's there, for any member of staff that's there. And I think we didn't actually realise at this point in time how everybody's been affected, by this. And I think it's going to take a number of years for two figures impact to be shown. So I think we need to start now and be on the front foot with it, and take it forward for there.
And it's almost irresponsible not to.
Exactly, and I just feel as a councillor and as a local government, that's what we need to look after the young people. I mean, there's so much uncertainty going forward with regards to jobs, with regards to colleges, exams, everything.
It's not a surprise that young people are struggling, because what they're going through, they can't see that the future that everyone says they have. Like how can that possibly look appealing to them?
It's up to us as adults, is to give that vision, that future, that focus for young people going forward, and what to do, what we can to help them through it. And as I say, there is adults, we all struggle, we're all just as like everybody else, but I think it's just we need to get the focus there and to say that this potentially could be a massive problem for future generations, and we need to stop it and address it now.
Before we came on, I put out a little thing to say if anybody had any questions that they could ask me. We haven't had many. The two that we got, the whole two, one of them was for you, and they'd like to know why you got into local politics.
Because I just want to try and make a difference in my area. To me, I think at local government level, it's all about people on your doorstep in the area that we live in, and actually dealing with it, seeing what the daily hardships are for individuals who live in such a rural area. I mean, you live in a fantastic bit of the world, to be honest, and I wouldn't change that, and I'd be forever banging the drum. But I think in a community as well, we're actually very lucky, because there's people there that'll step up, time and time again, and do what they can.
The old reliables.
Exactly, and it's great to see.
No, it is. It's lovely. The other question was more for us. They want to know how, like, the referral process works and how somebody would go about getting advice. So the one-to-one support service that we do is for 16 to 25-year-olds. And that's the only criteria, is that, and that you're in the borders. We touched on how wide the spectrum is when it comes to mental health. Like, there is no one size for each person. So what we try to do is we tailor the service to whatever the needs of the person are. So it's a self-referral process. So on our website, you literally just fill out the self-referral form. It's really brief. We get a lot from college, like Borders College. We get things from GPs. We get things from parents. Sometimes they fill out the form on behalf of their child, and from there we then we try and match up personalities on who we think might be a good fit for that person, and from there they sort of establish a sort of framework for how they think they could go forward. So we still have a couple of people who, every couple of weeks, they just want to meet for a coffee and a catch up, and that's all it is. And then we also have the kind of other end of the spectrum that we do, and that obviously involves a bit more intervention and stuff like that. And we have volunteers that work for us too. We've got befrienders who I was telling you over the phone how they're basically just there as play the role that the young person needs them to play, whether it's somebody being oh, have you been out for a walk today, or did you remember to shower, just literally something as basic as that. So we do quite a variety of things, but it's as you say, it's signposting so that people know what is there and who it's available to. And is there anything that you would like to say as a parting message?
Just to say to people, just don't fight this alone. We're in it together, this whole situation. Hopefully better days are coming. I mean, you can see by the number of case numbers, for COVID in the borders is dropping, which means that we're actually doing what we're told. So it is working, but we just need now just to get to the finish line and get everybody vaccinated, and hopefully some can start rebuilding some sort of normality there. No, definitely.
No, well, thank you so much for coming
on. No problem. No, but good luck with the rest of your talks you're going to be doing and stuff as well.
Yeah. It's been an interesting thing reaching out to people and getting the responses back. Like on the whole, it's been actually really nice. And then I've had like the other side of the coin. And it really just showed me that like people don't have time for it. And I just think people not having time for it is the reason we're in this situation. Like,
Yeah.
but it is what it is.
Keep doing the good work. Keep it up. Well done.
Enjoy the rest of the day.
Go for a walk now. Bit fresh air in the cold.
That concludes our first episode of Let's Talk. I'm so glad to have had the chance to talk to Caroline about what it is that she's passionate about. It's good to know that somebody who is at the heart of those discussions is aware of the situations and cares about it so much personally. I really hope that going forward she is able to implement the things that she cares about in terms of going through schools and signposting. So yeah, watch the space. I'm sure she'll dazzle us all. So yeah, thank you so much, and I look forward to hopefully seeing you all next time. Bye.